So, autistic burnout is intense physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion. Yeah, sorry, I have to do the picture because my internet isn't good enough to do video as well. Watch my first two live streams to see what happens when I have video. But yeah, autistic burnout is intense physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion. It can bring about a loss of abilities or just functioning. So often it can be brought about just from living in a world not made for us. Neurodivergence existing in incredibly difficult. So much of communication is subtle, and we end up missing it, which can lead to stressful situations due to miscommunications and misunderstandings. This world is bright, it's loud, and really just not the best environment for us. So it makes sense that it would cause us to burn out. It's more common and intense in those of us who are going through school or are working. School and work environments are often competitive, hostile, and hectic. They're stressful for anyone, not just autistics, but often autistics experience negative aspects of these environments more harshly. But when we voice our struggles, we're often told to suck it up. We don't get the help we need. So we just keep running ourselves to exhaustion until we burn out. Experiencing autistic burnout is different for each person. Some people may be physically exhausted, they may even get physically ill. Others may have trouble managing their emotions, which may make them prone to outbursts. It can manifest in intense anxiety and or panic, which is what happened with me. It can also come out as depression. It can increase repetitive behaviors, lower your tolerance to sensory exposure, and lessen your ability to adapt to change. Sometimes it can just make you feel like you're a zombie living on autopilot and just getting the bare minimum done. Basically, just coasting in survival mode. It could be a loss of creativity and inspiration. I know when I burned out, I was getting zero comic ideas and was really worried that the well had finally run dry. But thankfully, that wasn't the case, and I eventually started getting new ideas again. It can also look like executive dysfunction, sitting around wanting to do things you find fun but unable to actually get motivation to do them. I know that there have been times I've just been staring at my video games, wanting to play something, but if I was ever able to actually choose something and begin playing it, I could only manage to play for a few minutes before getting tired of it and shutting it off. Much like with many aspects of autism burnout, uh, sorry, much like many aspects of autism, a burnout looks different from person to person. Um, yeah, Kirjo, I've been seeing your comics. I really like them. If you're wondering why you've never heard of the concept of autistic burnout before, if you haven't, it's because it only recently started being looked into. In the past, autistic burnout only applied to family members, teachers, and caregivers experience burnout from dealing with autistics, instead of burnout experienced by autistics. It's only been within the last 5 years that autism researchers have actually realized that autistics get burnout too. And they learned about it by talking and actually listening to autistic people. Some people wonder why it's important to listen to autistics when we speak about our personal experiences with autism, and this is why. When you listen to us, you learn more about autism. There's so little research that's been done on autistic burnout because no one outside of autistics even knew it was a thing. We've experienced it, but we never had a name for it before. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that I just figured that everyone had to deal with this and that they were just stronger and better at handling it or hiding it. Turns out that no, we're not weak. We're just different. It doesn't help that whenever we would speak up about our struggles, we'd be gaslit into believing that it wasn't real. So we'd ignore it until we just broke down. This is why self-advocacy is so important. This is why we need to keep working on making our voices heard. The more we speak up for ourselves, the more people can actually learn about it and learn about us. When it comes to those too young to speak for themselves, it's also important to understand autistic burnout, since even infants and toddlers can experience it. When this happens, it's usually called autistic regression, but that's such a bad term. It's called that because the child may lose ability to speak, or their vocabulary may become limited, or they may start avoiding eye contact. But this isn't autistic regression, it's autistic burnout. Not understanding this has caused a lot of harm. Parents usually don't notice the more subtle signs of burnout in their child, so it isn't until the signs become more severe that it's finally noticed. So they see it as coming on suddenly. This has led to some parents believing that their child was neurotypical until they reached burnout and pointing at a whole bunch of things to blame for their baby suddenly becoming autistic, including vaccines. That's right. Misunderstanding autistic burnout in infants and toddlers helped the anti-vax movement gain validity and grow. My mind was blown when I read this. So much harm has come to humans in general because autistic burnout wasn't understood. If anyone tells you that understanding autistics isn't important, tell them this.